Spotify with Stefs. Our next guest, I'm super stoked about because he's a fellow radio DJ turned podcaster, Jason Bailey. Thanks for coming by.
Hey, Steph, how are you?
Great. I got to go by your show. I had a blast. Thank you.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. You got a lot of fans around the world. I mean, what's crazy is that I was in Sacramento for that horrendous 1 year doing radio out there, and we never crossed paths. And it wasn't until I came back to the East Coast, and now we're buddies.
I know. So I got to tell you what happened, how I found your show. I know, because it is funny. We have a lot of people in common and acquaintances and people in the industry. So the fact that we didn't know each other for so long. So the guy that I had gone on 4 dates with when he showed me your show and said he's a huge fan of your show. And he's a nice guy. And so that's how I found your show. I'm pregnant.
From that guy?
Him. From your fan. It's all your fault. This is all your fault. This was my first unplanned pregnancy. I'm excited because I like being a mom, but yeah, the fan of your show got me pregnant. So
I got to tell
you,
I've been doing this for 30 years, and that is the coolest thing that I've ever heard in my entire life of America.
So I can't have a drink and have a cigar during our show because I'm 2 months pregnant, and I'm like, dang, but summer baby's coming, and I got to guest on your show, and I'm a new fan of your show now. So it's cool. These things happen.
Let's go back to the guy that impregnated you real quick. Cause you said that, the fan of your show, I went out on 4 dates with him, and now I'm pregnant. So 4 dates, what date did you get pregnant on?
Well, that's what, I don't know which date, but when I explained it to my doctor, he was like, wow, at my age, I've used pull out and pray, I'm not going to lie, for 25 years, and it's worked effectively, until now. I used to brag about it. I go, you guys use condoms? That's lame. You're banging a raincoat. No longer am I pull out and praying after this. But so with my age, and then I have an ovulation called Flow Tracker. So I know exactly what's going on with me. And it was 6 days before the last time we had hung out, my ovulation. So my doctor's like, with your age and it being so far away from when the egg drop, I call it my album release day. That's when you got to be careful. And I'm like, stay away from me. He's like, the odds are so low that it's out of 4 nights and this would happen. And I'm like, it's a miracle. Jesus, baby, it's ready to be here. So I'm excited.
Did you enjoy getting pregnant from my fan?
Yes. Yeah, of course. I mean,
okay. It was good. At least it was-
I like my fans. I like your fans. I like, I'm not trying to get pregnant by all my fans, but I guess every couple of years, why not? Why not?
You're like the definition of OnlyFans. You're the poster child for OnlyFans. You have to tell that guy to reach out to me because I want him on my show because that is a phenomenal story.
Yeah, his name is Kirk. I told him I was going to bring it up on my show and he laughed, and so I'll tell him to come by. He's from Orange County, but's been up in Sac for a while, and he just loves your show. And so I just was like, well, that's pretty damn funny. Now that I'm going to have Jason on and tell him.
That's funny.
The seed. Yeah. Okay. So I had to share that information. And now I'm curious about you because you got to ask all about me last time. So I want to know, can you tell me from the get-go, how did you get started in the wacky world of radio? How did that happen for you?
Well, it was an accident. You go back to 1995 and I was in my final year of college at the University of Central Florida. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I was in a fraternity, so I was that guy, and I was having a good time. And I got good grades, and I was, I wasn't a waste case by no stretch. And I thought I wanted to do advertising and marketing. Not that I had a love for it. It was just, I don't know. So I did an internship at Golf Week magazine, and for a fraternity brother of mine, and I hated it.
What fraternity?
Sigma Chi. Sigma Chi.
Oh, I love Sigma Chi. I'm Tri Delta.
You're a Tri-Delt. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So dated many Tri-Delts.
Everybody else has, right? Tri Delta, everybody else has. That's what I love for our slogan.
So I hated it, and I pushed. I could have graduated college in like 3.5 years or something. So I actually stayed, I think 4.5 just to figure out what I wanted to do. And I remember one night, one of my fraternity brothers and good friends, and still to this day, actually just had him on my podcast, the BS podcast, the other day, because he was just on Wheel of Fortune. He was out in LA actually. Um,
Nice.
we were at a buddy of ours apartment. It was like 3 a.m. We were drunk, we were high, and it was like the last of the crowd that was there, like the hardcore guys. And the big stacked up radio set against the wall, and we're listening to him on the radio. He was doing overnights on a station called WJRR. It's a rock station, one of the very last real rock stations in the country, and in Orlando. And I was just like, and he was my roommate at the time, DJ was. And I said, you know what? I could probably do that. So next day when he woke up at like 3 p.m, I said, hey man, do you think you could give me an internship over there? I want to try this. He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, they're doing the intern stuff now. So I applied to be an intern there, another radio station, which was a top 40 station, XL 1067. And then for the Orlando Predators, which is the arena football team, because I played football in college and love football. Anyway, I get accepted to all three the same day.
Wow.
And the first one was within an hour. And I was in my fraternity house in my room. And the first one was the Orlando Predators. And I'm talking to this girl and I said, this is great. I was going to take it. I was like, this is great. But, I'm about to graduate college. I'm going to be looking for a job. So, do you have jobs available? She goes, I started laughing at me. She goes, look, we're getting ready to get under new ownership. You might not even have an internship in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, why am I even talking to you? So it's like, I declined it. Next call I got was from JRR. And this girl, she was like, yeah, you're an intern, orientation, come in, it's in 2 weeks. And it just kind of blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, great. Cause I was a rocker and I was excited. My, buddy's there and this is going to be fun. And then right afterwards, I get another phone call from this top 40 station XL. It's like, hi, this is Angela. I'm the assistant promotions director. Congratulations. We've accepted your internship and like for you to come in. I said, I just accepted one at the other radio station owned by 2 different companies at the time, now under the same company, iHeart. And then but what she said changed everything. I mean, changed my entire career. She goes, she was so sweet and so nice because I was like really irritated about the girl before. And she goes, look, if it doesn't work out, we're still here for you and you still have an internship. And I just thought that was so nice. And I never forgot that. I ran into her not that long ago. She's still in radio. And I told her that story and I was upset that she didn't remember it. I was like, this is like my life-changing career thing that you said to me. Why do I remember these things and you don't? Anyway, so
she was just being a nice person, but it meant a lot to you.
Just a nice person. Just a nice person. That's all it was. And then I went to the orientation for the rock station and I was miserable. The girl was not nice. It just didn't seem like a good place to be. So I never went back. My roommate was pissed and I took the one at the top 40 station. And in those days, you could work for free. So I was technically
I used to walk in and start with so I made calls a couple years ago before the podcast to see if I could get back into radio. And everything's changed. Like I would walk in a station and just jump on air and like mess around for a little bit till they like hired me on or I got paid. And they're like, oh, honey, you don't do that anymore. You have to be under major contracts to walk in the studio. And I go, what the? I'm bummed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the one guy that screwed it up for all theory is what I call it. Like with interns, with all my shows, it was towards the end, it was like pulling teeth trying to find interns. I guess the story is there was a girl interning in New York or something like that. And she ended up suing because she worked for free and then she won, which set a precedent. And, so it was a whole thing. Anyway, I took the, job in promotions as an intern. And then, I worked my way up. I mean, in those days, you're washing banners and vehicles and I mean, you're doing grunt work. And then I moved up I was the promo guy for the talent at the bar gigs. And the morning show was a show called Doc and Johnny. There were, a big top 40, zoo-esque morning show. And Johnny was like the cool guy, he was just the cool guy. And I was doing promotions for him. And we'd go to this bar. Chillers was the bar actually in downtown Orlando, now closed, unfortunately. And I'd watch him, and you get on a microphone and, put your hands up here, and do all that kind of, 90s stuff. And then I saw how much he got paid, and he's getting free drinks, and everybody knows him, and he's not paying a cover charge. And I'm like, this is cool.
And the chicks dig it,
And the chicks all around him. I'm in a top 40 station. I mean, that was our audience. So I remember, doing promotions for him and the other guy that was his partner on the morning show a couple times. And I went to Johnny one night at this bar gig, and I said, hey, I think I can do what you do. And he laughed and he goes, I tell you what, Jay, you let me know and we'll bring you in. And I said, okay. He goes, but think about it. I said, okay. So our promotions department, when you went out to a gig, you drove a truck, flatbed, a truck like an F-150, and then you towed behind a giant boombox. It was called Blue Thunder. And in Blue Thunder was what's called a Marty stick. It's an antenna. You'll still see news trucks, sometimes with antennas. Don't put them up near a power line. And you'd put it up and then you'd turn it like if you were in a submarine in order to get a signal so you could do live call-ins or a live radio show. That's how we communicate. This is pre-Wi-Fi and dial-up and Ethernet and all that stuff. And so, you're driving this thing. And in those days, there weren't many rules. So you could have a good time when you went out. You're driving this. You have no skill set whatsoever to drive this equipment. And I got back to the radio station. It was like 3:00 in the morning. And I sat down and I wrote a letter. Dear Mr. Magic, this is Jason Bailey. I thought a lot about what you said, blah, blah, blah. It was like Eminem, Dear Stan, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the next day he calls me at like 7:00 in the morning. 7:00 in the morning. And he goes, Jay. And they're all in the studio. And he goes, come on in tomorrow morning. I was like, okay, man. What time? 7 a.m. Be here at 7 a.m. I'm like, 7 a.m. so early. 2 weeks later, and I started doing stuff for them like right out of the gates that they weren't used to, like from a producer standpoint. Not that I had any experience, but it just was common sense. We didn't have, all the computer stuff that we have today. We were still splicing on reel to reel, playing CDs and carts and stuff like that. And the phone screening room was in the other room. So there was no phone screening software. So I'm writing it down on stickies and bringing it in. And it just made sense to me because as a kid, I was the 8-year-old that would complain to the manager that none of the employees were helping me, but helping adults. I was the kid that would always chase down the hard to find toy. So I had that skill set. I was actually a very good producer. For somebody to get bin Laden's brother on the phone right after 9/11,
that is wild. That's hard. And I would say I'm pretty good, but that's just because I have tits. Like I got Big Ed at the height of TLC, and they're like, how? I'm like, because he messaged back because he saw the tits in the profile pic. So that's how I get my good guess.
Well, after, I was interning in promotions. They actually hired me in promotions after like 6 months. And so like almost a year has gone by, if not a year's gone by. And I'm interning in the morning show as well. And I'm loving it. It's called getting bit by the bug, as you well know.
Yeah.
And they said the deciding factor, the defining moment in my career when I got hired as the producer was Evander Holyfield. I started to get a lot of contacts in town, and Johnny would teach me, and he would, again, didn't have a cell phone and this and that, but he had a pager. He'd say, hey, look, go down to meet the glad hand, the concierge at the Disney hotels and Universals and stuff when they have big names, because it was all about getting celebrities. Have them, reach out to you and get them on, and then say you'll give them concert tickets or something. It's like, cool. So I was doing that. So my contact at Disney, he went by Mickey, let me know that Evander Holyfield was in town. Now, Evander Holyfield, not necessarily a demographic, but he had just won the world championship. And I get him on the phone, and he was cool, and he came on with us, and they recorded, and it was on a Friday too. So they had a promo running all weekend. The GM heard it, comes back, says, hey, look, stick around. We're going to hire a producer, and your name's in the hat. And then for the next couple months, I watched people go back and forth. And then finally one morning, I'm in there doing what I always do. And the program director comes up to me and he says, hey, man, congratulations, man. We're going to go with you. I was like, really? A job? Like a full-time job? And he goes, yeah, man, congratulations. I'm like, how much do I get? That was the first thing I asked. How much do I get? He goes, man, we're going to pay you $15,000. I
That's
said,
good at that time, right? And you're starting out.
well, no, but when you've never, like, I'm thinking they're going to put a stack, of $15,000 in front of, I'm like, oh, yeah. Took that. And I remember my first paycheck. It was like $471.84.
Yeah.
I was like, oof, I don't know if this is going to work. And then I just, it wasn't until about 10 years in the business that I started making money. I was always in that position of you have to prove yourself, because I came from the producer role and I was in with the same company, working for the same people and in the same market, which you would think would be your advantage, but it wasn't. And eventually it forced me to leave twice, because of that. But,
I think it's important to jump states and companies and try out a completely different, broadcast station, because it changed my mentality even getting out of California and going to Texas for a little bit of, wow, they do everything different. Or I was kind of the big fish in NorCal for a little bit. And all of a sudden I go to Austin, nobody knows me, nobody cares about me. I'm at the front door trying to explain what's going on. I want to host an event, and it's kind of neat to almost revamp or restart.
in theory, I agree. And I thought the same thing. Uh, I never, and I never will, master the art of doing that. And I would see people do it all the time. And it worked out for most people that I saw do it. But when I left Orlando in 2013, and I had a big brand here, not maybe the top dog, but people knew who I was. I'd been doing radio for 17 years in the market, and Orlando's a good market, or used to be a really good radio market, not so much anymore. But when I left like without a trace. I mean, I just I left the wrong way. Let's put it that way, to my audience and to people. But there were a lot of things personally that was going on. And that's the reason I've done it. I've never really fully explained it, and nor does probably anybody care. But what I found out when I came back to Orlando, like recently, like just over a year ago, is that there are people after all these years that hold this grudge, animosity, whether it's something that was done, I said, which I don't remember. From what I'm told from some people, it's because I left. Like it was like a cult like thing, like you left us. It's really weird. I probably to the day I die, it'll never be explained to me.
It is. I deleted all my social media, but that's just because I gave birth to my first kid and I decided I didn't want to be known as the wild, crazy party stuff, And so people got mad at me or thought that I deleted or blocked them, but I deleted all of my social media in 2015 and finally created social media a year and a half again from that large break. And some are excited and some are like, why did you just disappear? But I'm now comfortable being wild again as a mom, but it's something I kind of just needed to think about or needed a break. So sometimes it's good to take a break, but I think if people think that you're closer than you are, right? I've had some people stalk too and show up a lot. So I think people think you're part of their friend circle or family almost when they listen to you for so many years. So when you just disappear, they get bummed out. Like, why didn't you explain what happened? I didn't want to say, hey, I'm becoming a mom, so I just didn't want this footage out there. And now, like I said, I have a midlife crisis in my 40s. I really don't care, but I did care in my 30s.
Mm.
Or my kids got older and they found out through going to meet bands and stuff about their mom and that I was in albums, and they go, why? So I'm telling them why. And they go, oh, that's cool. And I thought my kids would judge me and go, oh, we don't like that, mom, or we don't want that out there. But they've actually been so accepting of my wild past that they've made me feel comfortable being more outlandish and coming back out. But did you ever delete all of your social media, or did you always still have it?
No, when I left Orlando in 2013 and went to Atlanta, the job that I took, it was a weird situation. The job that I was supposed to have wasn't ready. I got lucky, and I use that term loosely. I had a backup offer, and I'd never been offered a job like this. I went up to New York. I sat down with one of the big dogs at CBS Radio at the time, and he says, pick a market. He goes, we don't do the type of radio you do, but sports or news, news talk. He goes, I think you'd be great in sports. And I was like, I'd been doing a little bit of sports like for fantasy and stuff. I was like, yeah. So I picked Atlanta just in case it didn't work out. That other job I knew would eventually be there. At least in my head, that's what I thought. And it was. The social media, I kind of reinvented my social media. Like there was only Facebook really at the time. That I was on. There was no Instagram. Twitter was it wasn't new. I mean, guess I had a Twitter account, but I didn't use it much. So I think I created a new Facebook account, and I wanted to start over. That was part of my plan. I didn't want to. I went by Buckethead for 17 years in Orlando, and I just wanted all that to go away. I wanted it which I look back now, and it was a huge mistake. But
same. I wish I kept all my social media. I had so many Twitter followers, all this stuff, or just made it private or something for a second. But starting over from scratch, it's been hard. It's rewarding, but it's hard to kind of redo. Like, why are we escaping our past? Because we work so hard to get there. You know what I mean?
The Facebook page still existed. I just didn't respond to it. And I actually used that Facebook page. I've just rebranded it to what I, have now, like what I'm doing now with the BPX, the Bailey Podcast Exchanges, 3 different shows, 5 days a week, 1 feed is kind of how I pitch it. I have a show that I release on Mondays called Honey, I Raised the Kids with my wife about us becoming empty nesters and starting our second life and opening up a live ozone therapy spa and so on and so forth. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have the BS, the Bailey Show podcast, which is more like what my radio shows have always been like. Tuesday and Thursdays for subscribers, Wednesday's a free episode. And then Friday, I do a show with Brad Stewart of the band Saliva, also the original bassist for Shinedown, called the Vinyl Road Podcast, where we talk rock and roll stories.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I get credit for launching Shinedown back in the early 2000s. Our station was I know a lot of people like to claim it, but I get it. It's mine. I trust me, it's mine. So
that's really neat though.
So like Brent, he sang at my first wedding, and I go way back with those guys, and I have a lot of history with those guys. And I love those guys, all of them.
I like how you say first wedding. Don Jamieson married from That Metal Show me in my first wedding, and Eddie Money performed. My first wedding was it was an epic, because I used to date the drummer a long time of Eddie Money, Chris Frazier. So because I was the ex-girlfriend of the drummer, he was like, hey, I'm from NorCal. I have to visit family. Kind of throw me a bone here for a couple grand. So he gave me this really cool, I'll be honest, my first wedding was an epic on a golf course. I rode in on a black horse to white wedding, it was so fun. But, and then the second wedding, you just start, I feel like third wedding will probably be courthouse, you kind of like don't spend as much.
Let me tell you something. So Eddie Money, bless his heart, rest
Love him.
He followed when I was really into Twitter and I was blue checked and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He followed me on Twitter, and I saw the day that he followed me on Twitter, and I was like, why? This is crazy. Why is he following me? This is Eddie Money. I mean, 2 tickets. Eddie freaking Money. So I message him and I say, Eddie, hi, nice to meet you. I saw you start following me. I'm flattered. Thank you. I'm a huge fan. Is there any way I could get you on my show? And he replies back with, absolutely. I'd love to. Let's set something up. He died just days after that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I had him on my show in San Antonio in 2011, and he was so fun and open-minded and talked about hooking up with the girls in the music videos. It's such a big YouTube video for me. But I knew, unfortunately, he wasn't doing well for like a couple years. People in his camp were like, it's any day now for a couple years. So I was kind of, he hung on for a long time. But he's a sweetheart like that. He checks his DMs. He would show up. He'd do things for free all the time. So I want him on record to be known as just such a giving, great guy.
Great guy. Well, I never got to know, but I just, I'm fans. Eddie freaking Money. I mean, if you're not a fan,
sorry, got sidetracked, but first weddings, epic. You got to go big for the first weddings.
Yeah. So anyway, all those shows, with the social media, like I have different Instagrams for the different shows, and then the BS is kind of, it's at Listen to the BS. So that's the prominent one. And I kind of had to rebuild a lot of that, after the Atlanta stuff. Going back to what you said, stuff about, it's good to jump and learn and this and that. Learning, yes. I mean, I learned a great deal going to a major market. I learned, unfortunately, I probably learned the best and worst lessons of my life when I was in California, which was the nail in
Sleeper
my,
baby.
yeah, it was the nail in my coffin for the most part as far as my
Yeah.
career goes. I mean, uh, it took a lot out of me. I mean, I trusted somebody, moved my entire family across the country for this person. I mean, what people don't realize about my time there, they're like, well, that guy must have sucked, because, well, no, I didn't suck. I mean, listen to what you have, but I signed a 5-year deal. And what was pitched to me was, hey, we're going to bring you in. We're going to do afternoons, and then you're going to do mornings. It wasn't supposed to happen as fast as it did. And then then we're going to syndicate you. I'm swapping the station in San Francisco, and I'm going to call it The Rock, which that was a cool idea from this person, the program director. And I'm going to put you on both of those. And then after about 3 to 4 years, I'm going to move you over to the classic rock station. And then I have a plan for this station. I was like, okay, I like
There was
this.
longevity in the plan. They were talking about your future, so why
Yeah.
not move your whole family?
Yeah. And they were
Yeah.
like, and then in 10 years, and I'm going, and I'm buying into this, which is very rare for me to do, but this person I trusted. And as soon as I should have known. Here, let me tell you something. I'll tell you a little inside radio thing. So the market manager, this Lush they had as a market manager, she was sleeping with the program director, which, I mean, everybody knew, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's lawsuits and stuff going on still now, but I mean, whatever. I don't care. I mean, it's the guy's MO. I mean, I'm friends with his ex-girlfriend, so I know what type of person he is. And I'm old school radio, dude. If you want to hook up with somebody at the office, I don't care.
It was so common everywhere I worked. Like,
That's radio. It's like the service industry. I mean, who cares? Just as long as it doesn't affect me. Well, it did. It actually affected everyone. But here's where I should have known I should have never taken that job. I flew out there for a visit, and everything was going well. The last night that I was there before I had to fly back to Atlanta, and my wife and I are there, they invite us to a Kings game. So we go to wherever the Kings play, right? And they're up in a suite, and they couldn't get us in the suite. So that bothered me. That was the first thing that bothered me. So they gave us these, whatever tickets and whatnot. And, we go and I'm like, this is kind of pointless. I was like, let's leave.
You're not even networking. And I'll be real. You call me a spoiled bitch after years and years of getting kind of the VIP treatment. I don't want to buy a ticket to someone's show or just sit in the audience anymore. I'm like, yeah, if you put me on the list, get me backstage or get me a nice area or front row, I'll show up. But if you're getting me general admission, I'll stay home. I'm tired.
That didn't bother me. What bothered me is you're trying to get me to move across the country. Like, I don't subscribe to this radio theory of we're lucky to have jobs.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone should subscribe to that theory. As a person that employs people in a business and has employed people and been a manager and leader and all that stuff, the people that work with you, not for you, have to buy into what you're doing. And so collectively you're working together. Yes, there's a hierarchy. I get that, but you're working together. You're collaborating for the greater good. You want me to move me and my entire family across the country. Don't come across like I'm lucky to be here. I mean, this is a mid-market gig. Now granted, they were paying me a lot of money, like a ridiculous amount of money to come out there.
But it's expensive to live in California too, so you got to kind of offset with that.
So the red flag was the market manager. She comes down to say goodbye to me, and she's drunk and she's wobbling in the corridor, and she pulls me aside, and she has this like melty face look, right? Where women's faces when they get drunk, they're, and
I've never been drunk. I don't know.
And she says to me, she all but accuses me of being homophobic and a sexist. She's like, I've talked to people and they told me that you hate women and you hate gay. Like, how do you respond to that? And I'm sitting here going, homophobic. Then you have to, as the straight white male in today's America in California, talking to a California, well, she's actually from Chicago. That's not even better, but
Yeah.
I have
Same.
to sit there and defend myself of saying like, well, my daughter's best friend's black and gay.
Which there's nothing you can say to that. And I said that's why Nick Fuentes has risen to the popularity he has, because white men have been suppressed and made fun of or said that they are racist when they're not. So now there's a guy, a leader that's crazy, coming out being like, you know what, I am racist. And he's on black guy shows. I don't know. It's like whatever. But I think that's the most offensive thing you could do, is to tell somebody they are racist or homophobic and put them in a category when they're not. And who cares how someone thinks and feels privately in their house or with their friends? Respond to how somebody treats you face to face when you're with them. Now, I could see if you were completely degrading to her in person, real time. All right, let's have a talk. Hey, man, my feelings got hurt. I don't think you're on my team. I get that, but you're like, hey, I researched you, and we change too every 5 years. I change who I am as a person. You're telling me you heard a roundabout rumor or you saw a clip of me, and so you think I'm that person. Also, I've said a million things that I'm joking and I want it to be a bit, and I love to entertain people. I don't think and feel everything I've said as a joke to make somebody laugh. So to put someone in that bubble and a very dangerous, um, you know, cloud over their head. It's a dark cloud that will get you fired from
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities. That's horrible.
Well, for the record, I'm neither one of those things, the farthest from. And I was like, I'm trying to think of why she would say this. And I'm like, I think it's because she talked to this guy and this happened. And because that happened, now this is being said. Like I still have never been able to figure it out. And it was never explained to me and stuff. My point is that's when I knew I should have never taken the job.
Yeah.
Because I'd be working for that. I'd be working for the rumor mill truther or the gossip truther or something like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, and then there was another instance at dinner. It was like the night before, 2 nights before or something, where my market manager in Atlanta came from this cluster and they knew each other well. And this guy is like, just hits on everything. Married guy, he's just old school, that guy, that gross guy. Right. And I despise that. I'm not a cheater. I'm a very loyal person. I don't like cheaters. I don't like liars. I love my family and I'm that guy. And he and I never got along at all. I mean, he wanted me fired for years.
Well, it's so snaky. Just be single if you want to have fun, because if someone's going to screw over their wife or husband in their bed, they're going to screw you over 10 times harder as a friend or colleague. So don't trust anyone that cheats.
Yeah. And this guy liked to screw people anyway. So she was like, she's telling me all this info and intel on this guy, like how we tried to sleep with her and how he had a stack of sexual harassment papers and all this stuff. Like, she's cool. I mean, it doesn't shock me. And then I'm the bad guy. Like, this guy's still revered to her. Like she talks about him like he's cool. And I'm going, what is happening right now? Like, you're a manager, you're corporate, you're an alcoholic, you're cheating on you're still married, you're sleeping with this guy, and I'm the bad guy. Like,
the most judgmental, scariest group of people in the world is a white liberal woman. And I'm freaked out of them. Very like mentally deranged, unstable. Then they'll scream and put you down in a category that you aren't even in. It's very scary.
They, at that radio station, it got to a point, because I would take my wife with me everywhere, and she was new, and she wanted to get out. So most of the stuff we're doing is at, the casinos or stuff like that. And it got to a point where they indirectly told me not to bring her with me anymore. Why? I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I no idea. Like, I'd say, hey, it's going to be me and Rach. We're coming out and stuff. It's like, yeah, we can only get one in. I'm like, what?
I've always been offered a +1. I've always had a +1. And that's been part of dating. I joke is like, hey, you get to go where I'm going. Like, that's a perk. Why I got young guys is I was like, do you want to get backstage at the show? Then come with me.
So,
that's weird.
You asked about the career and then ended in Sacramento at 98 Rock. And, there's some people that I still talk to out there, and I did make some good friends or people that I like, I should say. The
Yeah.
guy that's on the air in afternoons, he's a good dude. The engineers are all good dudes. I mean, which is crazy because like in radio, engineers are always like the worst, supposedly. They're crazy, they're serial killers, and there's such a good group of engineers over there. But everybody else is kind of gone, left, fired, left, couldn't
It's
take
all
it.
different and new. I love Abe and Paul and Gavin, and I hang out there just, when they have promotions or they have a band in there, I'll still get a text, so I'll run in and go see a band play live. What's wild? My idol in the industry, Nikki Black at 107.7 The Bone in San Francisco, she just got let go out of the blue. She just signed another 6-year contract last year. She was
Wow.
totally safe.
I know
She's
Nick.
widely popular. I mean, she gets her numbers are crazy. They just said, hey, times are rough. We're going to let you go. Not even filling her show's time, nothing. And so she's like hitting me up now, like, how do I do this podcast thing? And so she's starting a podcast soon. And I'm just telling her, and I'm going, basically, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. You can cuss. It's kind of fun, but she's got a good fan base. But I don't know. I am worried that radio here, like I said, I started the podcast as a resume thinking I wanted to get back into radio. And I'm finding out there's nothing out there. Or if there it is, the pay is so low, I would pay more to have somebody watch my kids to go into work. So it doesn't really make sense for me. And I just signed with Ed Hardy, which is hilarious. I didn't know it was still a brand from like the early 2000s. So I'm going to be wearing a lot of Ed Hardy clothes and getting paid. So I'm like, okay, maybe this podcast will go somewhere, you don't know.
Yeah, there's, I've found a way to monetize it. And to be honest with you, it's because of the relationships I build in radio with sponsors and clients. And, I do have a fan base from different markets that have supported me and followed me and subscribed to the podcasts. I learned there's a podcast out there called A Mediocre Time with Tom and Dan. And they're Orlando based, and without going into their story, but they have a radio background, and they left the industry and started podcasting before podcasting was podcasting. And I have so much respect for those two guys. And I've known them for, most of my career. The day I got fired in Atlanta, which was 2022, I guess, 2021, 22, I had already had a trip to Orlando coming, and I came down, I went on their show. And then I asked him if I could job shadow him for a day just to watch them function behind the scenes. Because like Nikki, just because you've done radio for all these years doesn't mean you can podcast. They're literally two different forms of communication. I mean, you don't want to be too radio-y, which I have a tendency to do because I'm programmed like that on a podcast. You want to be very loosey-goosey, and whatever happens. You're not trying to hit this and hit these times and stuff.
And finding your audience and kind of sticking with that. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like
Very
divorced dads and OnlyFans models, those and when I'm in the categories of podcasts that people listen to, it's 2 girls, 1 joint and OnlyFan girls. And so figuring out like, oh, that's my raunchy fun group. So I got to play into that so I don't lose them. That's just like a weird thing. And then answering back, I will say too, the still connection, even though you're not a local station where, hey, you can come meet me, but I try to answer back to everyone's DMs, try to make them feel like a part of my show, try to let them ask questions to guests when I have on their favorite band, but like being very personal still, I think is important in a podcast.
Sure. And you make a good point, Steph, as far as the niche of this and this and that. That's why I split up 3 different podcasts under the BPX.
Okay.
Because my radio show, you're looking at 4 hours of talk radio 5 days a week. You can do a lot of different stuff. It doesn't, you have your breaks, you come back, you can talk about family, then you can talk about sex, and then you can talk about a local story, so you can compartmentalize everything on a radio show. In a podcast, you have just one flowy show. Keep it to, I think, about an hour is a good time for a show like this or mine or yours. And you want to keep it to one narrative. You don't want to jump around too much. In this, it's a conversation with 2 people in the industry, and we're telling stories, and hopefully some of those stories are of interest to your audience and they listen and that kind of thing. But if you're doing a podcast on OnlyFans, you're going to get raunchy. You're going to get, you're like, dude, how did it feel? Is it, Is it as big as he says it is? You
I
that's
love the behind the scenes with the girls too. I actually learned so much about what's going on and
yeah.
what they're into. And a lot of them are really smart women. Like a couple of them were CPS workers and cops before they got into the industry. So I've been interested
If
in how they got there.
if I were hot and had tits, I'd do OnlyFans in a heartbeat.
If I didn't have kids, I always say I would in a heartbeat, but I cannot as a mom. Like I'll be wild on the podcast and talk verbally, but I don't want my kids' friends to Google me
Yeah. Yeah.
and see it all. I just think but no judgment to the women that are
No,
parents
not at
at
all.
all. It's just not my jam. I
Yeah.
for me, but I think it's a great way to make money, and why not do it? But
Tons of money. Tons
yeah,
of money. I mean, the
yeah,
internet's filled with money. It's just one circle of it's like one big poker table. You just have to find a way to get it. And going back to Tom and Dana, the most valuable thing I learned about podcasting is to have at least 5 revenue streams. So for me, I've got sponsors. I treat it like a radio station where I have sponsors that I do a read at in my pre-roll. Then you monetize subscribers, merchandise, your ads. Once you make it to a certain level with Spotify or whomever, your RPM, your revenue per mil. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because it might be boring some people, but when you talk about Nikki and wanting to get into podcasting, is I was just at a networking meeting this morning, and I tell these sponsors, back in the day when podcasting wasn't a thing, didn't exist, every doctor and every lawyer, they might be making millions of dollars, but they had this need to be a radio person. They had to do it. So they would buy time on a show. They would try to strong arm. They would try to big league and this because they love the money. Or they would get a brokered show, meaning they would pay money to be on the radio Saturday morning at 7 a.m. or something like that. And it was just one big commercial for them because they were paying for it. You have that ability now, podcasters. So like, I don't know how you monetize your podcast, but if you have brand sponsors, especially local in SAC or something, and go, okay, and again, I don't know how many people you have in your audience, but let's just say 5,000 for conversation's sake, and you do a show twice a week. Okay. You go to that person and say, hey, look, for X amount of dollars, if I told you could be on stage in front of 5,000+ people twice a week and say your message, would you do it for, a month? Twice a week, that's 8 times 5, and you're charging them $1,000 or whatever it is. Yeah, of course you would.
yeah.
Direct content to ear. Get out of the mindset of we're not all going to be Rogan or Theo Vaughn or true crime. There's a bubble for everybody. And you have an audience that's direct content to ear. That's worth something. And on top of all that, you can take that content and then utilize it for your own social media, which that in itself would cost you 5 times as much as what you're spending with said podcast for someone to do that and you to record it.
No, I know. So right now my YouTube's monetized because I have enough going on there, but my Spotify is just a year old. So I haven't worked up enough to be able to monetize on Spotify, but that's a goal. And then right now I haven't even reached out yet. Like the goal this year is to do subscriptions and move that and reach out to other people. But the companies, I have a makeup company, an energy drink company, and now Ed Hardy that I've signed with, that I just wear their makeup. I talk about the energy drink, and now I'm going to be wearing the clothes and I'll get paid for that. Oh, I did have a wing company. We did a sauce tasting for their wings. That was really fun. Coney Island Saucery, and I got paid to do that. So when somebody emails me, I say yes. I love doing these things and I do stuff, but I actually haven't reached out to anybody yet. But I wanted to grow it for a year. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be like, hey, I got 1,000 people following me. I don't know what I'm doing. I just started. So I feel like I got a good baseline now in this year that I kind of want to present a package. Especially I got a 3rd baby on the way. I'm not flipping a house right now. I better be, making some money off this podcast at some point.
We should have a conversation offline about this. And I'll tell you what I know. And
yeah.
you can take it
Give
for what
me Obi-Wan Kenobi. Give me your, mastery in all of this.
And see, here's the other thing is little secret for your audience is radio people hate each other. For
a lot.
Reason. Like 95% of them hate each other. And actually I do know the reason. It's insecurity.
A lot of people hate me. And I've never met them. I don't know them. Like, I've never had a conversation with them. We're like, I can't stand Steph's rock show because she has her tits out and she gets the big bands because her boobs are. Hey, fuck you, dude. I got the interview. So, but I've never met these people and I don't hate people. I really don't. I really just don't give a fuck.
Radio people are very insecure. They're very insecure. They're very jealous.
Yeah.
It just, the list goes on and on and on and on. And that always drove me insane. It absolutely drove me insane. And I hated that about the business. I still hate that about the business, that there's not more support for your fellow broadcaster. And I thought, like, in the podcast world, it's going to be totally different.
No,
it's really
for
not.
me.
Podcasters, they're kind of very much have that same mindset as radio people, especially if they're up here or something. They're like, fuck you, you know. I was
Like, I'm glad you were so nice when I hit you up. Do you want to come by my show? I love cross promoting on all these shows.
That's
But
what
I'll
I'm
be honest,
saying.
from day one with Mikey, I hit him up in a very respectful manner. Hey, been following your show. We have a lot of the same listeners, a ton of people in common. So it'd be great to go on each other's shows. He was really rude looking back from day one, and saw me as competition rather than let's join forces. That was my mentality. And I went on his show a couple times. He bailed on my show, never showed up that day, didn't reschedule. And then obviously we had the big falling out more recently. But I'm bummed because here I was coming as more of a fan. Like, hey, I think what you're doing is really cool. I agree with a lot of things, how you report on the news. And he talked to his buddies on the show that ended up reaching out to me that I'm more competition in the area, which I don't see other people podcasting as competition. I see as, like I've said, other people like to listen to your show and my show. They like to listen to podcasts on the way to work or when they're bored at home. Why not help find other people's shows? And everyone's so different, right? Like, our styles are so different and how we talk about something and our views. So to me, like, you're either going to want, hey, today I want Steph with her tits out interviewing an OnlyFans model or a rock band, or I want Jason doing something a little bit more serious or family oriented. To me, it's not competition at all.
It's not. And I'll tell you why. Because radio is 6 to 10. That's your morning show. Now, granted, I'm sure they'll maybe put it up on the website and all that stuff, but radio is looked at as real time, 6 to 10 a.m., 10 to 2, 2 to 5, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Podcasting is, again, direct. It's direct ear to, content to ear on demand. You can, like, you can start and stop, which is great. In your car, you're listening on Spotify, and Spotify gives you the option to toggle between video and audio. Your phone rings, the podcast pauses. Your nav comes on, the podcast pauses. You get out of the car, you get back into the car, you pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
There's no need for competition there, because you can then, when you're done that podcast, go off to the next podcast that you enjoy, whether it's his or somebody else's or something. So I don't buy into the comp. I just went through something, I guess, very similar with a couple guys that used to be on my show. We had a falling out, and they went and they're trying to do their own thing. And some of the audience was mad, and I ended up being the bad guy somehow, whatever, and whatnot. And the listeners, for the most part, were old radio listeners. And so they have the mindset that it's competition. Like, they don't understand that both can exist.
Yeah.
It both can exist. And even in the radio world, radio people have gotten soft. That competitiveness is gone. It's no more radio wars and I hate you because you're my competition. Those are the good old days. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I've either almost gotten in a fight or got in a fight. Like, I'm very kind of gang minded, that guy.
I might have allegedly just gotten into a fight. I'll just say that.
Really?
Allegedly. Yeah. At Aftershock. I left Aftershock in handcuffs, the music festival in Sacramento.
Did you know the person you got in a fight with?
I just talked to you about them.
Oh, well, the Mikey guy.
Allegedly. Where's it? Allegedly.
Really? I mean, it's that.
It got.
I don't know I mean, we've talked a few times online.
I'll tell you off air. I'll tell you off air the details, just because there was legal stuff, but it's done. But I still want to keep it off air.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that, though.
Oh, no, it was fun. It was fun. I go from getting in a big ass fight. I used to be a fighter growing up, and I got in 2 fights last year, and it'd been a long time. I go in to get a big ass fight wasted with Good Charlotte, handcuffed, taken out of aftershock. 2 months later, I'm pregnant. Like, what a year, what a 2025 way to switch it up. That's what I was like, I gotta have a podcast because my life is so fucking weird. It's nuts. Like,
it's good that you know that. It's good that you realize that you don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to have a television show for you to be interesting. Like, to me, everyone has got a story, and
yeah.
I'm always about the story. Life is about stories. That's what we're interested in. I mean, you can pick a random celebrity and listen to them tell a story, and it's nowhere near as good as the guy that you work with story. But why is their story intensified? Oh, because they're a celebrity? Well, fuck you, man. That's bullshit. A story is a story. And if it's told properly, told well, and you can connect to it, or it connects to people, tell that story. And if you have them and it's coming from first person, there's nothing wrong with putting together a production like this and sharing those stories. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not narcissism. It's entertainment. It's content.
Well, I could be a little bit narcissistic and unmedicated, but it's okay. It works.
We all
Yeah, we all are in this industry. So I dated a couple people the older I got that are untouchable. And so I'm like, also, I want to talk about these relationships with these directors and producers and rock stars because it's kind of neat now that I'm older looking back and probably ain't getting one these days. So I might as well relive the hot teens and 20s and talk about it. Okay, I know we've got just 10 more minutes. I want to ask you, just kind of go down the line, recent news stories, what you think about it. Okay. So Trump stealing with Delta Force, the Venezuelan president. What do you think?
Okay. Well, first off, people are totally missing the point of what's going on, because no one use the word stealing. No one abducts a leader of a country and allows them to bring their wife. Now, I don't know if that was punishment because the guy hates his wife and he's like, all right, this is the way and lets him wear a sweet ass matching tracksuit outfit.
Yeah, it looked cozy.
It looked real cozy. There's more to that story, So, I mean, I actually make a joke about this on my show. I don't remember what episode, but like, go watch The Blacklist. All 22 seasons of James Spader in The Blacklist. It'll make more sense. Look, I'm very pro this administration. I'm pro ICE. I'm pro law enforcement. I don't understand the disconnect of how you can argue that when you break the law, you shouldn't be held accountable.
Yes.
And I lived in California for a year, so I saw it firsthand of people being okay with people stealing $1,000 iPhones, and they'd make an excuse for them. They must need it. They must be in, they like, what are you talking about? Like, we have basic rules. Like, a dude has a dick and a chick doesn't.
Yes.
Don't steal from don't take something that's not yours, right? I mean, like, basic things. If the law says this, and in order to get into this country, you have to abide by this, then you have to abide by this. Just abide by it. That's all we ask you to do. No other place in the world is it okay for you to do that. You go to certain countries, you're allowed to stay there for maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, and then you've got to leave. Here, you can stay here for as long as you want. And then we'll pick up your tab. I mean, it is absolutely bonkers what this world has come to. So, not to say that I hate people with a difference of opinion. I love talking to people with a difference of opinion. And never would I once try to change their mind, because that's impossible. So I am a fan of finding a happy medium.
No, I agree. And I love this administration. I did a clip on YouTube recently saying pray for ICE. And I did this, got a lot of reaction, of course, negatively. I don't understand it. They're just upholding the law. I pay a ton of taxes with my job and my house. So of course I want other tax paying citizens. Why should I pay and they shouldn't? So I'm all about legal immigration and everybody coming here and being a melting pot legally. But Minneapolis is on fire right now. I'm glad I don't live anywhere near there. And I just don't understand why anybody would be wearing to the Golden Globes those pins that say be good for Rebecca Good when she tried to kill an officer that's just following directions.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the video, and, I try to look at things from both sides. And there's no doubt that she was that person. There's just no doubt about it. Was she trying to kill the officer? Like, did she wake up that morning and go, I'm going to kill this officer? I don't think that's what she had in her mind. I think it was the whole thing was the perfect storm and an unfortunate situation. What bothers me about, well, a lot of things about that bother me. One is that an American life was lost. Like and what bothers me most about that is that you have two sides that are trying to, one, argue the point that it should have been lost, and one argue the point that it should not be lost. These still are our people. I mean, these, whether they disagree with what you're trying to say, it's still an American citizen, right? So I have a problem.
I agree with that. Like, I don't want anyone to die, but I don't have a lot of sympathy because she's a mother that not only lost custody of 2 out of her 3 children, but then put her 3rd child in daycare to go harass ICE officers. As a mom, I'm crazy mama bear. I'm not going to any protest that could be dangerous, that could take me out, so I can't protect my kids and do my job as a mom.
I don't think it's fair to judge the person on information that you got after the fact when you're talking about a specific situation. You know what I mean? I mean, you can find out all kinds of bad stuff about it. Look, dude, if that were me and people were to find out, they would pick apart every bad thing that I've done in my life and be like, oh,
but to lose custody of your kids as a woman too, as the mom, dude, that's hard. That's
I
hard.
agree with you, but I'm just talking about the situation and the idea that everyone jumped to the conclusion of, yes, she was at fault. No, she wasn't at fault. And we're talking about leaders that jump to these conclusions. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I always say that the party that I'm a part of is the after party. I want to be there afterwards, and I want to be partying because I'm not following a party and agreeing with everything they stand for just because that's the card that I punch. I don't think that's right.
I'm hardcore Republican. I'm like, till I die, whatever they say, daddy's in charge. I kind of like to be submissive to my Republican Party.
I definitely lean conservative, but here's the thing is everyone's liberal, by the definition of the word. If you wake up today and you had cereal, you had Cheerios, and tomorrow you had cornflakes, you're liberal. You decided to be open-minded and try something new. So the word liberal, it drives me insane when it's used negatively because all that means is that you're open-minded. Now, in the political sense, obviously it means something different. I look at politics maybe differently than other people do. It's not black and white to me. It's case-by-case basis. Back to good is that, it sucks. It was just a horrible situation for both of them. I mean, the ICE agent too, whose life was in jeopardy and he's just doing his job. And now his family has to suffer, because of all these nut jobs out there that are doing. It was the perfect storm of crap is what it was.
Yeah.
But it didn't have to happen if she would have just stopped and just done what she was asked to do instead of, like, you guys, I do a whole rant on this. I don't know when you're releasing this, but in an upcoming episode.
Oh, I do it. Yeah, like an hour.
Okay, so next week on my podcast, the BS, I do a whole rant on this about these protests, and I say the one thing that we've all forgotten is what we learned when we were 5 and 6, and if we can remember the rules.
Oh, my cat.
Of what we learned when we were 5 and 6, we possibly could then learn how to be an adult. And I'm talking about sticks and stones don't break my bones. I'm rubber, you're glue. And the most important rule out of all of them is don't play in fucking traffic.
Yeah.
It's like,
and just follow the law, respect the law. As wild child as I'm known, I grew up in my grandpa's law firm. I'm really big about trying to follow the laws, at least not going against authority. Like, I messed up a couple times this year. And when the cops came, I go, I messed up, my bad. And they like that at least, like, I'll admit, like, I fucked up, and then so, like, where do I go next? And then usually they're going to work with you a lot more if you tell them you're not resisting anything and you say, hey, I fucked up, and you tell the truth. Usually they're like, well, I'm a check too, but they're like, okay, no trouble. Okay. I had one more question I want to ask you before we wrap this up and let everyone know where to find you is, do you think AI is going to take over our jobs? Is it good? Is it bad? What do you think and feel about AI?
I think AI is very much like what personal computers were when they first came out and came into the homes. Everyone was terrified and everybody said the same thing. Computers are going to take over. They're going to take our jobs. Yeah, they did. They took over a lot and they did take a lot of jobs. But what did we do as human beings? We learned to use computers to develop new jobs and to help us with our current jobs. So I think you have to do the same thing with AI. It depends on what industry you're in. I mean, I think this past year, Amazon laid off like 15,000 people, replaced with AI, and everybody was freaking out. And I'm like, guys, you didn't read the whole story, or you didn't see the other stories, because next year they're going to lay off 50. The year after that, they're going to lay off 150. I was like, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse until every robot is on the assembly line. That's where that industry is going. So you have to find a way, and it's industry specific, right? You have to find a way to utilize AI to better what you're doing, because you can't fight it. Just like those that fight social media or tried to fight social media, the faster you realize if you can't beat them, join them. And I hate that mentality. Trust me, I hate it. It scars my soul. But the faster you realize, it's almost like keep your enemies close. To utilize that technology, get rich off of it. They say in the next 3 to 5 years, AI will make 5 times as many millionaires as the .com era did in 5 years, or whatever the case may be. Look, I've purchased tons of .AIs. I've purchased tons of stock in AI companies. I utilize AI within my podcast brand. I utilize AI within a live ozone therapy spa with marketing and lead management. Find a way to understand it. And, I'm no master at it. Now, as far as radio goes, I don't know if you saw, there's a radio station that went all AI.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Again,
weird.
We can't fight it. It will win. I don't doubt. I mean, all these talking heads in radio, these people that know everything, the consultants and the coaches and the management people, they're like, oh, we're going to fight it. We're going to be human. Right. Every single radio company is in debt. If they can clear that money of human beings off the table and just have I mean, they did the voice tracking. That's kind of AI-esque, right? Nobody had a problem. Syndication, one show, numerous markets. That's okay, right? It's the same concept. And then you can localize it. So I see a lot of copywriters and producers being hired, which has been a job lost in the radio business for the last 15 years. And people like me, you, personality radio people, out the door. And AI people will take over. And the audience, you guys listening to the radio, won't care one bit. And I don't say that to be a dick.
That's wild.
It's just that you don't have time to care. All as you care about is what's happening at that moment. And if you're listening to a voice that you have no idea if it's real or not, and it's just talking up a song and telling you about a deal going on at the local, Safeway or whatever the thing may be, you don't give a shit. I mean, let's be honest. Radio listeners are fair weather for the most part. I mean, there's a good amount, but you have lives and you have to move on with their lives. You're not going to stop your life because your favorite DJ got canned. You might be pissed off and post a couple things, but life goes on, and it should for the DJ too, right? Those days are done. Those days are done. So AI will take over the radio business. Absolutely. Hands down.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming by, Jason Bailey. If you can't beat him, join him. Tell my audience where to find you.
Well, you can go to jasonbailey.com. That's the easiest place. You can get all of the information on all of the different shows. I would push you to Spotify under the BPX, the Bailey Podcast Exchange. All the shows are listed on that one feed. And then also the free shows are also listed on our YouTube channel, which is also under the BPX. But it's just the easiest thing to do is go to jasonbailey.com. And if you want all the shows, you want to subscribe, which I'd really appreciate. That'd be way cool. There's a subscribe button there. There's merch, our sponsors, and all that good stuff. But everything is up there. And then our social media. So, like after Steph was on my show, I started to see a nice uptick in people that started following me from your audience as I followed them back. And that's how this works. So, either if it's my personal at Mr. Jason Bailey or any of the shows would, again, or my link tree's listed up there, I'll follow you back. It's all about helping each other out, man. It's going back and forth. All
You're
nothing but love.
nice. I don't follow back. I just keep them as fans.
Oh no. Again, that day and age is done, man. I mean,
I followed you though. I
I
followed
know you
you.
did. I know you did. And you like
You
my stuff
know,
and you share my stuff.
no, I love it. I definitely, you're welcome by my show anytime. I'll come by your show anytime
Yeah,
you need a guest.
please.
Let me know. I'm
Okay.
down.
I will.
I'll get you in contact with the fan of your show that got me pregnant too.
Yes.
So,
Well, can I also plug this real quick?
yeah.
A live ozone therapy spa, even if you're not familiar with it and you're not in Orlando, I get it. We are Central Florida's first and only ozone therapy spa. But for those not in the area, if you go to liveozoneTherapySpa.com, we have ozone infused natural products that we make in-house, specifically our magnesium butter, which our patients call crack. So if you want that, you can use the discount code BS10, like Bailey Show, BS10, and get 10% off your order at liveozoneTherapySpa.com. I should have, you know what? Next time I do this, I'm going to put a discount code together just for you, Steph. It'll be
Ooh,
like,
I like that. You have to come back on. I can do news podcasts for days. So my best friend's a doctor in DC right now, but she's moving out to Naples, Florida in July and opening up a new practice. How far are you from Naples?
Well, I lived in Naples for about a year and a half. Lots changed down there now. It's a minute. So we're about an hour and a half from Tampa. Tampa's about 2-ish hours from Naples. So it's a good 3.5, 4 hours, because Naples is as south as you get on the left coast before you hit like Immokalee and then Arcadia, and then you start going through Alligator Alley to Miami to the other coast. So it's all the way down at the bottom. Naples is, but it's beautiful. A lot of money. Naples.
She's got this huge house set up. She's going to open up a practice. She's a hand surgeon doctor. And I'm going to fly out there and visit her.
Oh, cool.
Probably November now. So not for a while, because I got to have the baby get a little bit older, but I'm excited to go out there. But okay, cool. Thank you so much, dude. And you got to come back on.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. And to your audience, I appreciate it. And anything you guys do, if you listen or subscribe or message me, you guys are awesome. And if you listen to me when I was there at 98 Rock, thank you very much. It was fun while it lasted. Let's just put it that way.